You probably hate me already. I don't blame you. If I were reading this on a screen, scrolling through the wreckage of someone else's marriage while drinking my morning coffee, I'd hate me too. I'd call me selfish. I'd call me a narcissist. I'd say she had a good man and she threw him away like garbage. And you'd be right. My name is Elena. I am 34 years old. 6 months ago, I had a husband named Mark, a golden retriever named Buster, and a mortgage on a Victorian renovation project in a neighborhood where people leave their doors unlocked. Today, I have a one-bedroom apartment that smells like someone else's cooking, a shared custody agreement for the dog, and the silence in my life so loud it makes my ears ring. This isn't a story about an abusive husband. Mark never hit me. He never called me names. He didn't gamble our savings or drink until he blacked out. Mark was good. He was steady. He was the kind of man who remembered to get my car serviced before winter and held my hair back when I had the stomach flu. He was the man every mother wants for her daughter. And that, I suppose, was the problem. Or rather, that was the excuse I used to set a match to my entire life. It started with the renovation. That's a cliche, isn't it? The bored housewife and the contractor. But life is just a series of cliches until one of them ruins you. We bought the house because I wanted a project. Mark wanted a home. I wanted a distraction. We had been married for 7 years, and the itch hadn't just arrived. It had moved in, unpacked, and put its feet up on the coffee table. Mark was a corporate lawyer. His hours were long, his stress levels were high, and when he came home, he was a hollowed-out version of himself. He offered me stability, but he had stopped offering me him. Our conversations had become logistical. Did you call the plumber? What do you want for dinner? My mother is visiting next weekend. I was lonely. Not the kind of lonely where you have no one to talk to, but the kind where you're sleeping next to someone who feels like a stranger. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be the main character in a movie again, not just a supporting role in Mark's career. Enter Julian. Julian wasn't the contractor. He was the architect we hired to redesign the kitchen extension. He was younger than Mark, sharper, with eyes that didn't just look at you, they dismantled you. He drove a vintage motorcycle and smelled like cedar wood and expensive tobacco. He was everything Mark wasn't: chaotic, artistic, and entirely focused on me. It started innocently. That's the first why we tell ourselves. It's just lunch. We're just discussing tile samples. You have an incredible eye for color, Elena, Julian told me one Tuesday afternoon. We were standing in the dust of the demolition site that used to be my dining room. You have vision. It was such a small compliment, but I was starving, and Julian was holding out a loaf of bread. Mark hadn't complimented my taste in years. Mark just paid the bills. The texts started 2 weeks later. At first, they were about blueprints. Then, they were about frustration with the contractors. Then, late one night, a text came in at 11:30 p.m. while Mark was asleep next to me, breathing that heavy, rhythmic sleep of the exhausted. Julian, I can't stop thinking about the way you looked in that blue dress today. It's unprofessional to say, but I had to tell you. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I should have deleted it. I should have woken Mark up and showed him. I should have fired Julian the next morning. Instead, I turned the brightness down on my screen and typed back, Elena, it's not unprofessional if it's true. That was the moment. That was the betrayal. The sex didn't happen for another month, but the marriage ended right there in the glow of an iPhone screen in the dark.
The affair was a drug. There is no other way to describe it. It was a dopamine hit that made the colors in the world look brighter. I became a master of compartmentalization. I was two people. Morning Elena. Made smoothies for Mark, kissed his cheek, talked about his upcoming deposition, walked the dog. Afternoon Elena. Met Julian in hotels on the other side of the city. Sat in his passenger seat with the wind in my hair. Felt desirable, felt dangerous, felt alive. The guilt didn't come immediately. That's the part nobody talks about. At first, you feel justified. You tell yourself, I deserve this happiness. Mark is always working. I'm just taking what I need to survive. I gaslit him. God, I gaslit him so hard. You seem different lately, Mark said one night over dinner. He had actually come home early. He looked worried. You seem distant. Are you happy, Elle? I looked him dead in the eye, sliced a piece of chicken, and lied. I'm fine, Mark. I'm just stressed about the house. You're projecting because you're never here. I turned it around on him. I made him apologize for my distance. I watched him crumble a little, saw the guilt in his eyes for neglecting me, and I felt a sick sense of power. I was winning. I had the husband and the lover. It went on for 4 months. I got sloppy. You always get sloppy. You think you're invincible. You think you're smarter than everyone else. It wasn't lipstick on a collar. It wasn't a receipt left in a pocket. It was technology. It was the cloud. We were hosting a dinner party, a housewarming for the finished first floor. Our friends were there, 3 other couples. Wine was flowing, the playlist was perfect, the house looked stunning, largely thanks to Julian's design. Julian wasn't there, obviously, but his ghost was in every corner of the room. Mark was in high spirits. He had landed a huge client that week. He was laughing, pouring wine, looking more like the man I fell in love with 10 years ago. For a fleeting second, looking at him across the kitchen island, I felt a pang of something. Sadness? Regret? I pushed it down. Hey, Elle, Mark called out. The playlist stopped. Can you reconnect the iPad to the speakers? Sure, I said. The iPad was the house tablet. We used it for music, recipes, and controlling the smart lights. It was linked to Mark's Apple ID. But my phone was also linked to the family sharing plan. I had taken a photo earlier that day, a selfie. I was in Julian's bed. It wasn't explicit, but it was intimate. My hair was messed up, the sheets were tangled, and Julian's distinctive tattoo, a geometric hawk on his forearm, was clearly visible draped over my shoulder. I had meant to save it to my hidden folder. I didn't know that the iPad had synced in the background while it was charging. I was in the kitchen getting more ice when the music cut out. I expected it to come back on. Instead, the room got quiet. Not the quiet of a pausing conversation, but a sudden sucking vacuum of silence. I walked into the living room. Mark was holding the iPad. He was trying to show our friend Dave a photo of the new deck. He had swiped one too many times. The image was cast onto the 65-inch television screen via AirPlay, which we had been using to display a slideshow of the before and after renovation photos. There I was, in bed, with another man. The clarity was 4K. You could see the sweat on my skin. You could see the mole on Julian's arm. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. My brain simply refused to process what was happening. I thought this is a nightmare. I am asleep. Then Mark turned to look at me. I will never, for as long as I live, forget his face. I expected rage. I expected him to throw the iPad. I expected him to scream. But he didn't. His face wasn't red. It was gray. He looked like he had been shot in the stomach. He looked like a child who had just been slapped by a parent for no reason. Elena, he whispered. The room exploded into chaos. Dave turned off the TV. The wives looked at the floor. Someone coughed. I can explain, I said. The stupidest 3 words in the English language. Mark looked at the screen, then back at me. That's the architect, he said. His voice was trembling. That's Julian. He put the iPad down on the coffee table with trembling hands. He didn't yell. He walked past me, bumping my shoulder, and walked out the front door. I heard his car start. I heard him drive away. Our friends left in a hurry. They mumbled apologies, grabbed their coats, and fled the scene of the crime. I was left alone in the beautiful kitchen I had built for a life I had just destroyed.
And Julian? The moment the truth came out, the fantasy evaporated. I called him the night of the party, hysterical. He knows. Mark knows. Julian's voice was cool, detached. Shit, that's heavy, Elena. I need to see you, I said. I have nowhere to go. Look, Julian said, the charm completely gone, replaced by the annoyance of a man whose toy had just become a liability. This was fun, but I'm not looking for a messy divorce situation. I'm an architect, Elena. I have a reputation in this town. If Mark sues, look, it's better if we cool off. He blocked me 2 days later. He didn't love me. He loved the thrill. He loved sleeping with the client's wife. Once I was just a single woman with a baggage train of legal issues. I was boring. The divorce was finalized last week. I didn't fight for the house. How could I? I couldn't walk into that kitchen without feeling sick. I took a settlement that was less than I deserved, and Mark kept the house. I heard through a friend that he sold it immediately. He couldn't live there either. The house that silence built. I live in a complex now where the walls are thin. I can hear my neighbor watching TV. I can hear the couple upstairs arguing. I scroll through Instagram. I see Mark's friends. I see pictures of him. He looks thinner. He's hiking more. He looks sad, but he looks clean. He's healing. I am not healing. I am haunting myself. I wanted to write this because people love stories about affairs. They love the drama. They love the forbidden fruit. But let me tell you what the aftertaste is like. It tastes like microwave dinners for one. It tastes like checking your phone hoping for a text that never comes. It tastes like the look in your mother's eyes when she finds out what you did. Disappointment is so much heavier than anger. I had a husband who would have walked through fire for me. I traded him for 4 months of adrenaline and a man who didn't care if I lived or died. So, if you're reading this and you're bored, if you're lying in bed next to a good man who is maybe a little tired, maybe a little work obsessed, and you're texting someone who makes your heart race, stop. Put the phone down. Wake your husband up. Tell him you're lonely. Scream it if you have to. Because the silence on the other side of betrayal, it's deafening, and it never goes away.